Welcome back to the OverChurched podcast for people who love Christ but are struggling with Christians. I'm Delicia.
I'm Justin. I don't think we introduced ourselves in episode
we probably
1.
didn't. We were so excited.
We were so excited just to get back in season 2.
It's all good.
They could read it in the caption or something.
Yeah. So what's new? We're starting a new year, starting a new season.
Yep.
What's new? You got something on your teeth.
Oh, don't say that. That's a trigger. I got self-conscious. I got braces the end of last year.
Yeah.
So
how's that going for you?
it hurts, but in the long run, I'm going to be like the Black George Clooney. I'm going to get older and younger at the same time. I'm going to prime up.
You will.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
My latter years will be better than my former years.
I mean, you're welcome because, I mean, Hispanics just get finer in age. Like, that's just
yeah, but black don't crack.
Oh.
And my grill's getting fixed. I just think you're going to have to, hey.
Remember who started with you from the bottom.
I know. I'm just saying. If you're going to have to, I'm just saying.
Anyways.
We're not doing no body makeovers and surgery, but I'm just, for you, I just want you to know. My prime, my 40s, 50s.
You gonna be it, babe?
Bro, it's scary. I can't travel nowhere alone.
Okay. Anyway.
One day. But anyway, right now I got to suffer and look 14.
I'm enjoying it because then I'm just going to look even better next to you.
You're going to look like a groomer. You're going to look like you're with a child right now. Like you look like
even older.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my husband. Like, how old is he?
And you're 3 days older than me.
Okay.
So. Anyway, Cougar. I'm excited.
Is it Puma or Cougar? Anyways.
I'm excited for this episode.
Yes, I'm excited.
First of all, I'm excited just for the podcast. Do you know, after we did season 1, people literally, what?
Which we didn't even know how season 1 was going to go.
Yeah.
We were just like, let's try
We just knew we couldn't do another leadership podcast. Everybody has a leadership podcast. We didn't want to do one just on relationships.
Yep.
So we did OverChurched.
OverChurched.
Which was really the reason we started a church.
Yep.
And then what was crazy is that people started listening to the podcast and then ended up coming back to church.
And have visited us.
And then really plugged in. Like we got people that are members of the church because they started off on the OverChurched podcast.
Yes.
So that's crazy. Shout out OverChurched.
Yes.
Didn't even know we were using it you went from OverChurched to back in church.
They're like,
look at God.
They're in Chandler, Arizona.
Yep.
I'm going to go.
I'm there.
I'm going to go. So
but
thank you to everybody who listens, who is a part of this with us and shares this. This means a lot. Honestly, it means a lot. And if we can get somebody who's been over church to once again fall in love with God's bride, the church, that's the win. That's the goal.
That's the reason. That's it. So season 2, though, I'm excited. Last week, we got to bring out the homie Jeff Osborne.
Yep.
And just drop all sorts of, we all said it was like a therapy session.
It was.
So people are welcome. We should start charging.
And that was a very long episode. So we're just like letting people know, like that was just an extra, look at.
I think it was a good thing to where, they could adjust expectations. You don't know. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 3 hours. Just get you some coffee. OverChurched mug.
I love our mugs.
See where it goes. But today we have a clear topic because we were talking about this in bed the other night.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about like this obsession in culture, but specifically in Christianity culture, like church culture, this obsession with authenticity and vulnerability.
What is that?
Yeah, that's what we were saying. We were just like laughing, like if everyone's authentic, no one is. Like they're like, come on, we know people.
No.
Like it's crazy. I think Christians, I think it's humanity. All human beings. We're designed and wired to worship something. So ideally we worship God.
Yeah.
But if we don't put God in the place he deserves, we'll find something else to worship.
Yeah.
And then 100%. Even on that, we'll do everything. Oh, it's for God. But we have like these subcategories, these little baby idols that, and what I've seen in my lifetime is first there was this obsession or this idolization in Christianity with purity. So it's like stay away from, don't hold hands, don't dance to secular music, don't be alone with the opposite sex, like this whole idolization of purity.
Yeah.
Which then just turned people into just being secret.
Yeah.
Like
To follow the rules that were told, but that's not. There was no understanding.
Yeah.
There was no heart to like.
It was just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
And there was no redirection. You know, it's like just don't do that. Stay away from that. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh. And then you find out teenagers are still having sex. People are still they're just more ashamed to it once I do it because now I know I wasn't supposed to do it. So now when I'm pregnant, I feel like this terrible human being instead of being able to like, well, God he gave me. I mean, it wasn't God's will that I have sex, but He's the one who allowed me to have a child, like the child, you know? So anyway, first there was the purity culture, which was the idolization. And then I might be skipping some in the middle, but the last thing I remember that was forever was the leadership idolization. Everything's about leadership and got to be a better leader and you got to lead and everybody's a leadership expert.
Yeah.
And then you find out that they can't even lead themselves. They just have all these theories or whatever.
Theories. Yes. And I think this all spiraled because the question we get asked a lot is, and I don't think that there's any formula. Like, I don't think there's any formula. One, I really think it's where we've come from. So I think for your background, where we came from was the Bay Area. If you didn't know, if you haven't listened and you don't catch on to our lingo, you'll catch on pretty fast. That and I had somebody tell me that who has listened to the podcast and met us. They're like, I knew you were from the Bay. I knew it. Like, as soon as you were talking, I knew it. And it was like, yeah. So in the Bay Area and being in a city, coming up and growing up in a city life and fast paced and everything else, it's like, I don't know. It was something about then growing up. It was like, you need to be the real you. Like, nobody wants to fake or funk with anybody who is like fake and not the real them. And it was very just a much of a culture growing up in. So then when we get into full-time ministry and we're dealing with people, we're like, what is going on? When did this become a thing? Wow, hold on. They smile at me and they act like they like me. But then somebody just told me they were just talking all this smack about me.
You knew in high school who didn't like you because they were like, I don't mess with you at all.
Like, didn't like you?
Everybody knew. Like,
you made sure they knew who didn't like you. Like, that was not a thing.
Yeah.
But then when we came here to be youth pastors, I remember kids, they would be like, oh yeah, we got in a fight and everything. I'm like, oh for real?
They're fighting in Scottsdale? What happened?
And they're like, no. On social media.
Like on Snapchat. Like, we're just like.
And I'll be like, what? What are you talking about?
You need to get punched, bro. You just need to get knocked out one good time.
Oh man. But the thing that we get asked though is like, how are you guys leading this way? How are you guys like getting people that are like that? And then how are you actually leading in this way? And I would say for those who are
leading in the way of what?
Leading in the way of being honest, being authentic, using that word, right? Using that word authentic. I just think that it's been misused and what people see it as, depending on your background, depending how you were raised, depending on the fact of, do you even know yourself really to be able to be authentic? I think that's where it goes down to. And why we want to talk about this was because I think a lot of us kind of get OverChurched because we get these unauthentic people in our lives that are claiming to be authentic, but they're not.
Yeah.
So it's this battle because you're like, well, how do you deal with that? Yeah. How do you deal with those people?
And
whatever.
Then they'll say, so I don't go to church because everybody's fake.
Everybody's fake. I can't stand. Yeah. Well, everybody you're around is.
I mean, but I mean, at some point, everybody is fake in a certain.
Yeah.
In certain areas.
Yeah, because you're trying to find who you are.
Yeah. And you're also scared of rejection. It kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday. Like, there's this people pleasing thing. So sometimes we put on a persona.
Yeah.
But my problem with the church world is, one, it's a repellent to people to want to be a part of churches or Christianity because they're so aware of like the inauthenticity.
Yeah.
But then you have what I call the Christian piranhas or the culture vultures.
What are those?
The culture vultures are the ones who are like
culture
vulture. Or plants, man. The ones who like they see a trend and they're like, oh, well, we need to jump on that. So first it was purity, then it was leadership.
Right.
And now I think it's this culture of we got to be authentic and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And now you just see it's all grown men just crying every 5 minutes about stuff. And I got to be in touch with my feelings. And everybody has a therapist and everybody's in therapy and everybody's in touch with their feelings. And I'm like,
which I like.
I do.
Like
yeah. I got a therapist.
I know.
Yeah. You make sure. Yeah.
I like.
But we also, I think the problem
Yeah.
is we live in a culture where so much of it is fabricated. Instagram is filtered.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just what you post or how you post something, but even what you post. Like you'll post the highlights, you'll post the best parts of things. You'll post a vacation and make it seem like everything was great. And it's like, y'all hate each other. Everybody on that trip was mad by the time they like, you know what I'm saying?
But even we're at an all-time rate of plastic surgery.
Bro, I didn't want to be the one to say it. You said it. But
I mean, I'm a woman. I'll say it.
Bro, women like, I want to be so real.
It ain't just women though.
That's true. But I'm going to start off with the women.
Men are getting just as...
I'm just, yeah. But
you don't want to believe that.
We're trying to keep up with the women.
Nah, don't come at the women.
You 40 years old with a 2024 body.
These men are wearing fake hair, fake hairlines.
Bro,
like,
extensions. Now, I'm not, who am I to say, hey, if you couldn't handle the ugly stage of getting the dreads and you had to throw in the extensions.
If you had to do you,
boo-boo. You can afford it, you do
you.
But we got to, I hate the whole like, boobs is new, booty's new. And then working out all the, like, bruh, come on. Like, come on. That's not fair. That's not fair to people who are authentically sweating it out, working hard, doing all these things.
It is.
And they're feeling like the need to compete with someone who had the means to accelerate the process. And I'm not knocking anybody's process. I'm just knocking the fact that we're pretending like.
Don't pretend to be authentic about something that you're not.
But yeah, again, because it's like, why can't you just own it? Like, hey, I had a great doctor. I could afford it. I was like, why? Like, if
or the fact I got the money.
Exactly. Like, hey,
I got the money.
Then help us out. Like, where do we need to go? Who's the best doctor? You know,
if I had the money.
Hey, see, that's why God doesn't bless you.
If I had the money, I ain't even knocking nobody.
But my point with that is like, we condition ourselves. This is what I think it's the lie of authenticity.
Yeah.
Because rather than just embracing and owning to, hey, I didn't like this, I made an adjustment, whatever. And I'm not even talking about plastic surgery. Like, I don't care about plastic surgery.
Yeah.
I care about the fact that that's actually a mindset in we're all under the knife of plastic surgery, pretending that we were born this way. And this is not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In whatever aspect it was. And so what I get upset about is we have leaders who are projecting this vulnerability and this authenticity. And the fact of the matter is, that's not who you are when the cameras are off or when there's no microphone in your hand. But you're projecting an unrealistic lifestyle and expectation that now other people are dying and killing themselves trying to reach when that's not even real. Because
through your actions, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, you're showing people that's authentic.
Yeah.
And you're leading them.
You're making people believe it's authentic. Yeah.
That's authentic. And I remember when we met an amazing pastor one time, Banning Leapshire.
Shout out Jesus Culture.
Jesus Culture. Amazing. So authentic, genuine people. There's not a person I met through Jesus Culture that was not that way. Mm-hmm. And all from his leadership.
Yeah.
Just from his leadership. And I'll never forget, that's where we got the whole thing about praying to, before we preach, is just praying to be a son or a daughter instead of a pastor. Because
you don't want to find your identity in who you're projecting or you feeling
who you're projecting to be.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot to all the leaders listening, and whether you're some type of CEO or that you're a pastor in the church, like I think that's important for you to be praying, is that help me to be the daughter and son before the position or title, because then it becomes, you're trying to fit that identity and it's unauthentic.
Yeah.
And so I believe that we're getting frustrated with people in our church world because there's leaders that we even meet and they're like, oh, I love people and I just love like what we do and da-da-da-da. But like when you're in their home, they
don't host people.
They don't host people. They don't got friends.
Yeah.
They literally don't got friends. And it's like, How do you love people so much when you don't even have anybody that you actually do life with? How do you love people so much when you don't pick up the phone call to go to the hospital and visit them? How do you love people?
You love what people can do for you.
And that's unauthentic.
We had a conversation with some friends recently.
Yep.
We were talking about the danger of becoming someone. We were talking about we talked about a lot, but the main thing that stuck out to me that I think is relevant in this conversation, we were talking about the danger of doing something that is a service to people, but you don't actually love the people you're servicing.
Yeah.
And then it ends up becoming a service to you. And that's not just in religious spheres. Like you can start a nonprofit, you can start an organization that's all about helping people, but you don't really like people. You like the fact that, oh, well, if I start this and I get enough, then I'll get this grant and then I'll get this, I'll qualify for this. And then we can start making crazy money. So you're using people. You love money.
Yeah.
And you like using people to make more money.
Yeah.
So I think what I wanted this conversation to be about is because I think the danger of that is if we're not, especially as leaders, if we're not authentic with people, we will authentically hurt people.
100%.
And the hurt will be real.
Authentically figuring out who you are with God.
Yeah.
You need to figure that out because of the fact that if you don't understand yourself and who God's created you to be, then you're trying to perpetrate to people.
Yeah.
And then they see that. They smell that.
Eventually, but sometimes they're getting fooled.
Sometimes they don't.
Because that's another thing I have a struggle with that.
Yeah.
I honestly believe the majority of people, I don't want to throw a percentage, I'm going to just say the majority. I want to say the majority of people, because they're trusting and they want to believe the best, it makes them oblivious to when they're being lied to.
Yeah. Yeah. Or something doesn't match up.
Yeah. Like they don't do enough of, like everyone says, like I talked about, this generation can tell the real from the fake. No, they can't. They've been raised in fake. Think about the next generation. They've been raised growing up on reality TV shows, which were scripted, listening to artists who were lying about come on. I love Drake. Drake's dope. Yeah. Drake's a pathological liar. He fakes accents. He's an actor.
Yeah.
He raps about a lifestyle he ain't living.
Yeah.
But he paints a pretty picture. I can reconcile that Drake is fraudulent in a lot of areas because he paints a pretty picture. I'm like, hey, I'm here for the picture.
Yeah.
I don't care the fact that the artist plagiarized and is having ghostwriters. I'm just here for the picture. You know what I mean? But I can separate the two. A lot of people don't separate the two. They're like, well, no, they said that. And it's like, bruh, they're just painting a picture. They are not the artists.
Yeah.
The AI made that. Like,
I remember
they're recycling quotes they've heard.
No, that's so good because I think that if you think about that, if you ever had a boss like tells you like, oh, I love you and I care for you.
Oh, yes.
I care for you.
Yeah.
But then if something's going on in your life that is unpredictable, unmanageable, and you're struggling, like maybe the fact that your spouse ended up in the hospital or whatever, but yet now they have to be exactly what they said they are to you. To the fact of the matter is how they said that they love you. Your family comes first, everything else. But the moment that you stopped producing or that you can't be there or whatever, are they actually there for you in that way?
You just reminded me. That's actually the other point I meant to make when we were talking about, we said the church messes up so much because every church says you're part of our family.
We've talked about this.
But family is a scary word to say. Like that's not authentic. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of cases.
Which is so sad because it's like, I love that word. I love that word because I literally look at that word like a family is dysfunctional. A family is not perfect. A family though is saying that we have the same vision. We all know at the end of the day though, that the love that brings us together is totally worth it. It's like there's nothing that's unbreakable to that. But that's the love of Christ.
Family. Yeah.
That's the love of Christ. And that's who Jesus is, right? But I also know that people have had, it depends on your background, like their family's probably their worst enemies.
That's scary. Yeah.
And so I get it. So that's where it's like leaders, yes, like even us, like as a new church, it's like sometimes we say family, like, and it's just so, it's because I'm really trying to fight for this word back. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just
make
feeling...
families great again.
Okay. He didn't just do that. But I think that the fact that it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important because I think that the fact that it's for relationships.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Like maybe that's the word we're really fighting for.
Authentic relationship.
Authentic relationships
is what makes a family.
Is what makes a family.
The fact I can be me, I can be imperfect, and you still love me, but you tell me the truth. That's actually what I wrote about I think vulnerability is not crying or just being in tune with your emotions.
Yeah.
It's allowing yourself to be potentially hurt by opening up to truth and the consequences.
Yeah.
Like that's real vulnerability, is allowing you close enough to where you could hurt me with this. But most leaders are not vulnerable.
And that's a hard place to be. It's not an easy thing to be at that point because we've been hurt in that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like we came out.
I shouldn't say most, many leaders.
We came out super vulnerable, super honest and like authentic, what we would say, right? Like just, this is who we are. This is who we're doing life with, And then our second transition, it was one of the hardest ones.
It was.
I mean, you went to taking a whole sabbatical because of the fact that you felt completely lost by so many different things.
Yeah. Because
you felt like I shared exactly who I was.
Yeah.
Like you're one of the closest people who said he was there for you, who was your best friend, who was like everything, like literally backstabbed you.
Okay. Let's not get me triggered.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
I'm good.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I do.
Like talk through something like that of like the fact of, but then still expected you to be in this place of like, even though he was that and then betrayal and then, but still want to pick up where it was left off.
Yeah.
Like,
but so then, okay. So yes, I was vulnerable. I got hurt. Then I messed up because then I tried to tell myself I was okay.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep going through the motions of, it's all good. We'll meet here. We'll do this. And instead of being authentic of,
no, you hurt me,
bro, that like, and you don't owe me anything. I just want you to know like things are not the same because now I see what it is. Like I can accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
But okay, that's my point. Like vulnerability and authenticity have to go hand in hand for you to be healthy, because the people pleasing in me and no, I'm good. I'm a leader. I can't be letting, I'm better. I'm good.
Yeah.
That caused me to live a lie for a season of I'm telling myself and others that I'm good when I'm actually not.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to have an authentic conversation of the fact that, no, you really hurt me. Because what man wants to tell another man, you hurt me?
And 100%. And I think that what we have seen though, and what we've all been taught, even all the pastors, our church planners now coming up at our age and everything else, it's like we've been raised up and now in ministry for quite some time now. What we had saw was that the main leaders would not just say they were hurt.
Yeah, you got to be strong.
They would just be passive aggressive.
Don't let other people see you bleed.
They would,
from your scars, not your wounds or whatever.
That's why I don't keep people around, like
keep people at a distance.
Keep them at a distance and everything else.
But that's not the person I want to be.
No, and that's what you fight as a leader. And so we're saying that if you're listening here, it's like we're asking you to figure out with God, how can you be authentic and also vulnerable in what you've been through, what has happened to you, and who you are? Because you're actually robbing other people of knowing that real you, of knowing who you really are and how. And imagine if you were to be authentic and vulnerable at the same time, and for people that what could help, how you can change their life in that way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
How you could change your own life. Forget everybody else.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like literally, but I'm just saying like if you were to even prioritize, I need this for me. Kind of like what we talked about last week, the prison breaking thing.
Yeah.
Like I have to be vulnerable and authentic about how, and I can't control the responses.
No.
Like me being vulnerable is not to get sympathy or empathy. It's just to be transparent and it's healthy. But then I think the authenticity part is, being authentic is not knowing what to say or what to post or how I should respond, which was so good. What Jeff talked about last week, like should.
Yeah, if you think what everybody else
expects
or you're pre-screening before, like
that's not
it's not authentic.
Here's the thing I think is important, and I think this is what actually helps people truly be authentic, because I don't believe, like I said, being vulnerable is not just, I know how to cry on the spot. Like that's not real. Some people are actors. Like some people can cry immediately and it's manipulative and it's to make people think they're, you know what I mean? Like that's 100%. Not true vulnerability.
Yeah.
Authenticity is not just saying things that no one else says. Sometimes people are just self-aware and they're like, yeah, that probably shouldn't be stated. That won't be received well. But people are just loud about things. They're like, oh, they're authentic. No, they're smart.
Yeah.
They know that if they say it louder, you know, they'll get followers. But here's what I think is important. I think that there's often a disconnect between who people want to be and who they really are.
Yeah.
And so they believe the lie that they're authentic because they see themselves based on who they want to be or who they aspire to be. And there's a disconnect with being aware of who they really are. And I think a good example, which is why I think you need to be vulnerable, because you need people that can hold you accountable to what you're saying compared to what you're doing and living.
100%.
And I think an example is one time we were with some leaders and I made this statement of, hey, I'm done doing X, Y, Z. Like, I don't want to have to tiptoe around feelings and emotions. And like, I'm just about to, like, I want to just be upfront and say things, right? And I'm saying all these things about how, you know, this is what I'm going into. If you're not on this energy, get off the ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we were going home and you're like, hey, you realize you don't actually live that way. You tiptoe around a lot of how to say things. You overthink how are they going to receive? Like, that's not actually what you do consistently. And at first I was admitting, like, you're trying to call me fake? But I realized you're just saying like, no, there's a disconnect between what you've been doing and then what you're saying.
Yeah.
You need to kind of revert. You need to start. If that's really who you want to be, then we talked about how to actually
inventory.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
that what I'm really doing?
Exactly.
Now?
So
you can't say you love people when you don't do life with people.
Exactly. Or you can't say you're real when you don't have hard conversations.
Or you don't share anything.
Yeah.
Like you literally don't share. I think the most, the one comment that I got from a friend recently was that she was saying like, you just act like everything's perfect. You act like nothing is going on with you or anything. And I just remember being like, what? Like, that's not why would you say that? Why? Yeah. And I realized in that moment was like, one, it was a friendship thing. It's like when you're having friendships and relationships, you have to be able to ask your friends, how am I as a friend?
Yes.
What is your perception as me as a friend?
Perception is really reality. And from that, if people are close with you.
If people are close with you and you're asking people who, you know, love you and want to see you do better, right? And then also in the fact of like, for me, it was like, well, I don't know. Every time I got with you, I just felt like we were always talking about you. So I was just trying to be a good friend to you. But I didn't realize I was not being a good friend because I wasn't sharing about my life.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, it was like, instead of me getting defensive about it, I had to humble myself. Yeah. And I realized like, oh, I wasn't being what she perceived as authentic. Yeah. Like, I wasn't being vulnerable with her about even though so much was going on in my life to share. And then me being honest and hearing her out was hard. Yeah. But then it was like a check. It was like, oh shoot. Like I do need to be intentional with kind of being able to interrupt the conversation or not try to go so on pastor mode all the time and be like, what do you need from me? Yeah. But also people actually want to know what I'm going through too. And they want to know that. And that's a risk, right? That's a risk. Part. That's a vulnerable part. And some people have asked me that too, of like, well, how do you deal with like people not being real with you? I can't control that. Yeah. And that's not for me to control. Yeah. It's only my. What
did Jeff say last week? I'm not responsible for your response.
Yeah. You're not responsible for their response. Yeah. It's only your response that you are responsible for. Yeah. So for me, I'm going to continue to be me. Yeah. And grow in that. And for anybody listening, I want to say that the fact that if you're inspiring to be that, you have to take inventory and ask the people closest to you, maybe that's just a spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your kids.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah.
Like,
or have you not allowed people into that? That's another inventory. Do I even have people that can tell me when I'm not being vulnerable, when there's a disconnect of, and it's not about like, I don't think I'm a bad person for saying this is who I want to be. I'm just jacked up when I don't realize that it's okay to want to be someone.
Yeah.
I just need to be aware of who I'm not yet. So that you can be like, hey, you said you were going to avoid tips. So now when we have meetings or confrontations, it's like, hey, you're going to be direct with them. Yeah. Like we sometimes will have the thing.
We have
Make
to
sure
coach
you
each
say
other.
clearly X, Y, and Z, and don't preface it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't, hey, I'm still proud of you. Also, though, it's like, hey, you dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Like unapologetically, I don't need to, like, I need, and that's the challenge that's my evolution in becoming more authentic of the leader I want to be.
Yeah.
Is having accountability of, hey, that means you're going to do X, Y, and Z because that's who you said you want to be. Not because I love you for who you are. I'm fine if you're going to be this nice, cuddly pastor who just doesn't say anything. If that's who you are, that's who you are. But if you're saying that you're going to be someone else, then I'm going to hold you accountable to who you're saying. And that's what we need.
We need people in the church. Stop blaming the church for being unauthentic.
Yeah.
The people in the church are unauthentic.
Yeah.
And that includes you too.
Yeah.
So you have to be that change to doing that as well. You set that culture. Yeah. You set that tone. Be authentic and people will be that too. They'll be like, dang.
You create a safe space.
You create a safe space for them. And that is what people have asked us. Yeah. That's the only thing we can tell people is like, we will just continue to challenge each other, continue to work on each other and like on ourselves in that way. And I appreciate having you as my husband and my partner in crime.
I'm gonna get better.
You are. You're getting only better. And just allowing God to correct us, allowing each other to correct one another. And I mean, we've been at it. Like when sometimes we had to correct each other, it's like that hurt. Mm-hmm. That was sucky. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, it's like, but he loves me and he wants me to get better.
But it also, I think you create the culture, right?
Yeah.
Culture is not what you want it to be. It's what you allow. Yeah. Right. And so I think the cool thing we've seen is like within our core team, within our staff, like I got a text message. I'm gonna put him on blast. I got a text message from our executive director this weekend. I don't know when you guys watch this, but at this time it was this weekend. And he literally texted me, "You're making it really hard for me to do my job."
Yeah.
Now, as a pastor, I could easily be like,
yeah.
But that's our culture. We're authentically honest. We give grace, speak truth, and show love. And he was just being honest and vulnerable and transparent, authentic about, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, but you're making it hard because of some other X, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'd rather have that versus somebody that ends up quitting.
Or that is just
or just shuts down. Or or they're just
or not vulnerable to being able to just grow with you.
Yes.
And that's really what people are asking. So if you're wondering like, what is that, D and Jess, what are you guys doing, whatever, we are just open to growing and we are open to figuring out how to continue to be authentically us along the journey. We don't have it perfect.
Yep.
We don't have all the answers. We don't have the formula.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact of what we're saying is, God, if we're asking you to use me, then that means that we have to continuously grow in what that looks like and what that means and what you're asking of us.
I agree.
And so that's vulnerable.
Yes.
And that's vulnerable and saying, I will literally tell our team, dang, that was on me. I messed that up. I made that mistake. I didn't do that the best. Or I didn't say that the best. Will you please forgive me? And we're teaching our kids that right now when they're apologizing and asking for forgiveness. It's like, I want them to look at each other and say, like, I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm so sorry that I didn't say that the best way. I should have done that differently. And I think that when you can do that with people, it leaves a space for growth, safety, and for you to be authentically you.
And last thing I'll say with that is you doing that, because I think what people think is authentic is, well, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
And I just know me. That's a lie or a justification for it. It was, I just know who I am. I know me, and this is what I do. And what that is I think there's a difference between identifying your feelings versus letting your feelings identify you.
Ooh, that's good.
And I think that being able to identify like, oh, I have a tendency to speak without thinking, or I have a tendency to shut down once I don't feel like whatever it is,
Or I don't care what other people
or
think.
I don't care, or I just, when I'm hurt, I'm gonna put on a face and I'm gonna just keep it pushing. I don't care. Whatever, like being able to identify that is a gift.
It's a gift.
But just accepting it and letting, well, that's how I feel. That's who I am. That's letting your feelings identify. That's not authentic. That's
not God.
Immaturity.
You're choosing yourself over God.
That's idolatry, idolizing how I feel over who God's called me to be.
Yeah. So, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
But we love you guys. Thank you so much for just listening and just being a part of this journey with us. We don't have all the answers. This is all dialogue. This is all us really allowing you a part of our journey personally, and hoping that it blesses somebody listening and watching with us. Is just the fact that if you might feel overchurched, that we're just praying that you go back to his bride, because the church didn't hurt you. People did.
Yep. Man, let's stop lying about who we are. Let's stop living in this lie of authenticity. Let's authentically humble ourselves.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable, allow people in, and become more aware, self-aware. Cool. Well, until next time, go love, live, and lead like Jesus.
Love y'all.